Good evening. Today is Monday, April 24th. This is the regular monthly meeting of the Cranston City Council. And if the clerk can please take the roll as we call this meeting to order.
Councilman Ferry,
Present.
Councilwoman Renzulli, Councilwoman Jermaine,
Present.
Councilman Donegan,
Present.
Councilman Campopiano,
Present.
Councilman Paplaskas, Councilman Riley, Council Vice President Vargas,
Present.
Council President Marino.
Present. And now at this time, if we can please stand, to take the Pledge of Allegiance. Next on the agenda is the approval of prior meeting minutes. We have the minutes of March 16th, special council meeting, the minutes of March 27th, regular council meeting, minutes of March 31, 2023, April 4, 2023, and April 13, 2023, special council meeting. If I have a motion.
Motion to approve those minutes. Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Council-
Actually, clerk, before we take that, council has advised that we should take it as a block. Can I have a motion to approve as a block?
Motion to approve as a block. Second.
Any discussion? There being none, if you could please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Council President, Vice President Vargas, Whew.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Motion to approve the block. Second.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? There being none, Tracy, if you can please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Next this evening is public hearings and public comment. If there is anyone in chambers that would like to speak on docketed matters, please step up to the podium, state your name and address, and please keep your comments limited to 4 minutes. And away we go.
Thank you. My name is Andrew Teitz, T as in Thomas, EITZ, an attorney with offices at 2 William Street in Providence, Rhode Island. And I'm here tonight representing TACO, the applicant on your ordinance resolution under B 2-23-02 Carlsbad Street. And I just wanted to let you know that I am here as is representative of the company. We're here to answer any questions if this should come up. And I'd also just like to clarify, I think there was a question, the ordinance committee had amended it. There was an amended version that was submitted before the ordinance committee, and the ordinance committee approved the as amended version. Although that word apparently didn't get through to the clerk. So the one that's on is the unamended. So I just wanted to make it clear and ask that if you do choose to approve it, that you approve it as amended.
Thank you.
Good evening, Robert Murray, 21 Garden City Drive in Cranston. I'm here tonight to speak in favor of ordinance 1-2304, which is known as the Cranston Printworks Ordinance. We want to thank the members of the ordinance committee for their support. Chris Reynolds from Brady Sullivan Properties is here again this evening. If there are any questions, we'd be happy to answer them. The only additional information I wanted to share, which didn't come up at the ordinance committee, in speaking to Councilman Donegan subsequent to the meeting, one topic he was interested in was the issue of rodent control. And Mr. Reynolds is here. I want to assure the council and Councilman Donegan that if once there is no demolition going on in terms of knocking buildings down, which generally upsets rodents if there are any, this is all interior demolition work, which will haven't really seen any incidences where that's a problem right now. We don't anticipate it being a problem, but through the building permit and the demolition permit process, they will put in place the necessary rodent abatement controls that the building inspector will expect. So I just wanted to put that on the record. And the last thing, I just want to speak in favor of ordinance 3-2302. As amended, the Kenwood Street ordinance. I want to thank Councilman Ferry again for his cooperation. I represent Restaurant Depot, and we appreciate the accommodation made at the ordinance committee, and we hope that you'll pass it as amended. Thank you.
Anyone else in chambers? Okay. There being no one in chambers, anyone on Zoom, Tom?
I see no public comment.
We will now close the public comment on docketed matters. Next up are resolutions. First, we have the resolution urging the city council to recognize April as Celebrate Diversity Month, sponsored by Councilwoman Jermaine. Councilwoman Jermaine?
Thank you, Council President. This resolution I proposed this resolution 2 years ago. So as we all know, and we all working toward that, diversity is a big thing for us. I think in the council and for many of us in the city, and to celebrate Diversity Month. Oh, I'm sorry about that. So when we talk about diversity, often people think is about only black and white. It's about colors, the skin color. So diversity is not only about skin color. It's about all ethnicities. It's about elderlies. It's about people with impairment, disability. It's about LGBTQ. It's all the minorities in the community that need to be included, not only represented. So for me, it's a big issue. It's really, I have this into my heart. So that's why. And this April 27, 29 is Native American Gathering of Nations. So we want to honor those indigenous Native American people, Black, Latino, Asian, all people of color. So to see them as represented, their culture, their heritage, their differences being valued, respected, and celebrating. So that's why I, again, introduce this resolution to ask that in the city, and as we have a new personal director right now who is the chair of the Diversity Commission. So I hope they can think about to do something to celebrate our cultural heritage in Cranston through music, food, clothing, art, lifestyle, and throughout the month, and not only this month, but for every month, every day, the way we behave to show that we celebrate that. So I urge passage. Thank you.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Any discussion? Council Vice President Vargas.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilwoman Jermaine, if I could be added as a sponsor, and thank you for bringing this forward before us. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And Councilman Donegan?
If it would please the sponsor, if I could also be added.
Councilman Ferry?
Ditto. Please.
At this time, I'd like to thank Councilwoman Jermaine for this resolution. And I would be happy if you would be inclined to also add me as a co-sponsor.
So it's everyone who wants to be added. So it's for all of us.
All right, great. All right. Anyone else? Okay, Councilman Paplaskas, Council Campopiano, okay. All right, at this time, if you can please take a roll, Tracy?
Councilman Ferry.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Next this evening is a resolution establishing a friendship city relationship between Cranston, Rhode Island and Stepanakert. Kurt. Forgive me, I'm sure I butchered it, in the Republic of Artsakh, sponsored by Mayor Hopkins. And if someone here from the administration would like to speak on this resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. The administration wholly supports this resolution. We've supported Armenian causes in the past. We did a commemoration a few years ago, as I recall. So we would like to offer our assistance in doing this. It's a region in Azerbaijan populated by Armenians. And they've suffered greatly over the years due to Soviet control and other wars and atrocities. So we're happy to do that. And I also wanted, on behalf of the administration, to support Councilmember Jermaine's resolution and offer to help. I don't know that you knew I was here, so but I just wanted to offer our assistance. But we obviously, the mayor fully supports this. It's just an ongoing thing to support groups that have suffered over the years.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay. There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine.
Yes.
Councilman Donegan.
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Next up this evening are reports of committees. First is the Finance Committee, and I will hand this over to the Chair of the Finance Committee, Councilman Donegan.
Thank you, Council President. Before us from the Finance Committee, we have 4 items. The first being a resolution authorizing real estate tax abatements. This was approved by the committee, and I would urge passage.
Motion to approve.
Seeing no discussion, clerk, please take a roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
The second item before us is a resolution authorizing motor vehicle tax abatements. This passed in committee, and I'd urge passage this evening.
Motion to approve. Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please take a roll.
Councilman Ferry.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
The third item before us is consideration of tax interest waiver approvals. This passed out of committee, and I would urge passage this evening.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan.
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Lastly, consideration of tax interest waiver denials. This passed in committee, and I would urge passage this evening.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano.
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Okay. Right. Before I transition to the chair of the ordinance committee, just for the record, if we can note, if the clerk can note that Councilman Riley is also in attendance this evening. Okay. Right. Next up is ordinance committee, and I hand this over to the chair, Council Vice President Vargas.
Thank you, Council President. First item on the agenda that came before us, the ordinance committee held on April 13th was a resolution urging the General Assembly to support legislation to protect the Patuxent River, HB 5087, House Bill 5088, and House Bill 5116. This was sponsored by Council Vice President Vargas, and Council President Marino. It's passed out of committee, and I urge passage this evening.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Any discussion?
First, I'd just like to thank the sponsors for bringing this resolution forward, and if it's okay, I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right, Councilman Donegan as well, Councilwoman Jermaine as well, Councilman Capopiano as well, and Councilmember Ferry as well, and Councilmember Ferry. All right, and Riley. Perfect. Thank you. The entire council right now. Thank you. Hearing no further discussion through the clerk, please take the vote.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Thank you. Next item, we have 1-23-04. That is ordinance and amendment of chapter 17 of the Code of the City of Cranston, 2005, entitled zoning, change of zone, 1381 Cranston Street and 767 Dyer Avenue, Cranston Printworks Projects. This is sponsored by Councilman Papalaskis. Is continue from the March 16, 2023 meeting. This was passed out of committee, and I urge passage this evening.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
Uh,
Councilmember Ferry.
Chair, I'd like to ask the sponsor if I could be added as a co-sponsor.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank
Second.
you. Any other ones? Councilmember Donegan, any other council members? All right, Councilmember Capapiano, and I'd also like to be added as a sponsor for the record. Any other discussion? None? Seeing none? All right, through the clerk, could please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas,
Yes,
Council President Marino.
Yes.
thank you. The next item is 2-23-02. This is an ordinance and amendment of chapter 17 of the Code of the City of Cranston, 2005, entitled zoning, change of zone, 35 Carlsbad Street, plat 7, lot 3141, and 0 Carlsbad Street, plat 7, lot 3744. This is sponsored by Councilman Donegan. Believe this ordinance was amended in the ordinance committee. And there was a motion by the council.
Lamas. Sorry. I think you're reading part of 223-02. We're on 223-01.
Sorry, it's been a long day for me today. Sorry. Circle back, strike what I just said. We are on 2-23-01, ordinance and amendment of chapter 17 of the Code of the City of Cranston, 2005, entitled zoning, change of zone, 0 Plainfield Pike, AP 36, lot 8 and 37. This was sponsored by Councilman Capopiano. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Any discussion? Seeing none, the clerk, please take the vote.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, now we're moving on back on track. 2-23-02. This is an ordinance amendment of chapter 17 of the Code of the City of Cranston, 2005. This is entitled zoning, change of zone, 35 Carlsbad Street, plot 7, lot 3141, and 0 Carlsbad Street, plot 7, lot 3744. This is sponsored by Councilman Donegan. This passed out of committee. It is amended by ordinance. It was also amended by the ordinance committee. There's a motion on the council to approve as amended.
Motion to approve
Any
as
second?
amended.
Second,
Any discussion? Seeing none through the clerk. Please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
yes,
Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Thank you. Next item is 2-2306. That is ordinance amendment of Title 9, Chapter 9.08062 of the Code of the City of Cranston, 2005, entitled Public Peace, Morals, and Welfare. Notice requirements for removal and pruning of trees. This is sponsored by Councilman Donegan, Council Vice President Vargas, Council President Marino, was as amended in committee on April 13, 2023. May I have a motion to?
Motion to approve,
Second.
Any discussion? Councilmember Ferry?
I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor.
Absolutely. Councilwoman Jermaine?
So I would like to be added as co-sponsor.
Absolutely. All right. Any other discussion? Seeing none? Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
yes,
Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Thank you. Next item is 3-23-02. That is ordinance amendment of Title 10, Chapter 32 of the Code of the City of Cranston, 2005, entitled Motor Vehicles and Traffic, No Parking, Commercial Vehicles, Kenwood Street, both sides. This is sponsored by Mayor Hopkins and Councilman Ferry, co-sponsored by Councilwoman Renzulli, Councilman Donegan, and Council President Marino. This is as amended in committee on the April 13, 2023 meeting. May I please have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
second,
Any discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
yes,
Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas, Council President Marino.
Yes.
Thank you. Last one under the ordinance committee is 2303, ordinance amendment of Title 10, Chapter 04, Section 030 of the Code of the City of Cranston, 2005, entitled Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Penalties for Traffic Violation. This is sponsored by Mayor Hopkins, Councilmember Ferry. This passed out of committee. I have a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Any discussion? Seeing none, through the clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
yes,
Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes,
Council President Marino.
Yes.
that ends the ordinance committee.
Okay. All right. Next up this evening is public comment for undocketed items. If there's anyone in chambers that would like to be heard on any undocketed matters this evening, please step up to the podium. Keep your comments limited to 4 minutes, and please state your name and address for the record. Let's see if there's anyone on Zoom right now. Is there anyone on Zoom, Tom, that wishes to be heard on undocketed matters?
I see no public comment.
Okay, all right, in chambers, I see there's someone that would like to be heard. Yep, if you can please step up to the podium. And if you could please state your name and address for the record, and please keep your comments limited to 4 minutes. And there's a button there to press for the microphone, please.
Hey, I just have a question. Can I pull up my phone? Because I wrote something and I just.
I can't, can you just,
Yes.
the microphone? Sorry, the echo's bad in here.
Oh, it is on. Hello.
Oh, this.
Can I use my phone to read what I wrote? So I have anxiety. I'm sorry.
No, not a problem. Not a problem. Just, you do need to state your name and address over the
Yes.
record. Thanks.
My name is Nikki Miller and I live at 708 Dyer Ave. I am a resident of Cranston. And sorry. What I wanted to say is, sorry. Since January of 2020, a time span of a little more than 3 years, there have been at least 6 accidents that I can recall off the top of my head between the stretch of Dyer Ave, between the Governor Sprague Mansion and Riverbend Apartments, around 0.5 miles. There are two crosswalks in between those locations on that stretch, and both have been involved in accidents, one that ended with a fatality. Residents in this area have been extremely fearful due to the issues of people speeding and passing other vehicles over the double yellow line. We did see a speed radar posted near the mansion not too long ago. However, it was set up right before a stoplight. So I do not believe it was an accurate representation of how people travel on the street. With no stop signs in this section, speed bumps, radar signs, and a combination of poor lighting near the crosswalks, drivers are speeding and endangering the people in our community. And I'm here to ask the city of Cranston to be proactive in doing a traffic study on the street and to come up with a plan for the community to help combat this issue before any more lives or property are destroyed. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else in chambers for public comment this evening? Okay, there being none, public comment is now closed at this time on undocketed matters. Next on the agenda for election appointment of city officials and report of city officers, there's none. Next up is executive communications. First up is a consideration of request from Detective Lieutenant Stephen Brooks for 1-year continuation of service with the Cranston Police Department for the period of April 2, 2023 to April 2, 2024. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, and at this time, before we have council member discussion, if the administration would like to speak on this.
Detective Brooks has met all of the qualifications necessary to be continued in service for 1 more year, and the administration supports this petition.
Any discussion from council members? There being none, clerk, if you please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilman Renzulli, Councilwoman Renzulli, do you wish to vote?
Yes.
I was not here to listen to that one, so I'm not going to vote on this. Thank you.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. And clerk, for the record, if you can please note that Councilwoman Renzulli has arrived as well. Thanks. Next up is a consideration of request from Chief James Warren for 1-year continuation of service with the Cranston Fire Department for the period of March 5, 2023 to March 4, 2024. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, and before we have council member discussion, does the administration wish to be heard?
The administration would like to thank Chief Warren for all his years of service and his willingness to continue for 1 more year. He does meet all qualifications required under the personnel rules and the fire department rules to continue in service, so we would gladly support his continued efforts.
Any discussion from council members? Okay. There being none, clerk, if you can please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan.
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. And I'd like to thank both Detective Lieutenant Brooks and Chief Warren for their service to the city over the years, and they're willing to continue in those roles. Next up on the agenda is the legal expense analysis for the period of July 1, 2022 to April 24, 2023. I see on the agenda, it says vote may be taken. We have historically not been taking a vote, but since it says that for consistency purposes, we will accept it into the record. I ask for a motion to accept it into the record.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on the legal expense analysis report? Okay. Clerk, if you please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Riley, Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Next up this evening, under Council President Communications, is for informational purposes only, where no vote will be taken, is the report on hiring of Tom Lima for the video technician services for the Cranston City Council. Next up, under Council Member Communications, we have Councilman Donegan. You've got your agenda item. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. Just at one of the Finance Budget Committee here, or Finance Committee budget hearings, there was a lengthy discussion about the status of the comprehensive plan, and just seeking an update on whether or not the RFP has gone out for that.
Evening, Councilman. So here's where we are right now. Commerce Corporation has the signed grant agreement for the 125,000. With that is a tentative task list that grant will cover. It's called a tentative task list because we'll know precisely what the tasks will be once a contract is signed with our consultant. That'll be part of the process, so that'll get swapped out. The RFP is in the final draft form. I'm in contact with purchasing and finance right now on the final tweaks, the timeline, everything else that goes along with that. That should go out hopefully within the next week and a half, 2 weeks at the latest. But we need to make sure that everything is copacetic. As part of that time frame, it would be the advertising, the pre-bid meetings with the consultants, potential consultants, to ask any questions of staff and the city, what the process is. And then we would probably have, from the time it goes live to the time applications are due or bids are due, probably be about 4 weeks. I think that should be enough time for a consultant to put a proposal together. Then we'll have the selection committee vet the applications, do interviews with the potentials, and then score them, and then come up with a chosen consultant. And then once we choose someone, there's a process of negotiating the contract after that. So could be sometime in July, August, is the time frame for all of that once the contract is signed. And yeah, that's where we are right now. So I'm happy to do monthly written reports to the council on status. Most of the steps will be implicit because there'll be public steps, the things that'll be advertised and things like that. But I'm happy to do monthly communication to the council about where we are with that. So it is rolling. We just have to put the final touches on it.
Thank you. And I only speaking for myself, I think the monthly written update would be helpful. Certainly don't, just speaking for me, don't want you to have to come here unnecessarily. So if you're able to communicate that.
No, absolutely. I will do a special report on that. They won't be, all that exciting in the next few months because it's the procurement process through BOCAP and the city and things like that. So
if I'm recalling correctly, my only secondary question is, at that meeting, which was last week or 2 weeks ago, it sounded like the RFP was ready to go out, and I think it was said that it could be out in 2 days. So I'm just wondering what needs to be changed on it. It sounded like it was ready to go then. It's not out yet. Just curious what happened in the interim that has delayed.
When we're in a final draft, you keep looking at it. You keep finding things that you want to perfect. You keep finding things that need to be tweaked. There's other parties that are wanting to look at it internally before it goes out. So yeah, we're at that final stage. We were picking dates for advertising and pre-bid and all that today. So Tom is behind me. He needs to sit and take a look at it and make sure it meets all of the internal requirements for BOCAP. We haven't done too many of these before, so might get a little over anxious, but I think that it's on track.
Councilman Donegan, I'm going to interject here. Alderman DeMayo, do you have something you'd like to add?
Through the chair, I got a couple of questions. Do you feel, Director, do you feel that the RFPs will come back and you'll be entering into a contract prior to the end of fiscal year 2023?
No.
Just to make the council aware, we have 70,000 allocated in the current fiscal year budget based on former information from Director Igo that if we don't have something allocated, signed, then that $70,000 will go down to a fourth quarter adjustment. We'll only have the contracted amount of the grant at 125. And if I'm correct, and Director Zezelis, there was no money allocated in the fiscal 2024 budget for the comprehensive plan. So we'll only be working with the 125,000 to start. I just want to make sure that the grant will be able to be used for that period until we can get into the next budgetary period. So there'll be additional funding to pay for the comprehensive plan.
So we had this discussion a couple of weeks ago about the 70,000 from 2022 that was put into a dedicated account. I had asked that the 70,000 be put into the same account. This is a special project. I think that this warrants special consideration of keeping that money intact so I can do this project. So I don't see why there's any reason why we can't do that and just keep the two appropriations intact and then use those to pay for the project.
Through the chair, will any classification from Director Zezelis, but I did go back to the budget hearings for 2022, and Director Igo had stated that if we did not have a signed agreement, that the $70,000 could not be set aside in a restricted fund, and that it would probably become a fourth quarter adjustment. That was one of the questions that we asked during the hearing. Again, I hope it's set aside. I just want to make the council aware that if it's not, and it's not put in a restricted fund, that there may not be funds available.
Through the council president to the council auditor. After the finance committee meeting, I went back and checked. The actual 70 grand from FY 22 was in fact reserved, held over, and it didn't flow to fund balance. So the initial 70 grand that Mr. Pizzullo made reference to last week has been reserved for this contract.
So we have it somewhere within the financials or something that can be reported that there is a fund that's been restricted and there's 140,000.
It's classified as deferred revenue on the city's financial statement. That is correct. The initial 70 grand from FY 22. So there is an existing, for no better term, funding source for a portion of the contract that Mr. Pizzullo just spoke to, that being 125,000 from the grant that was just executed and 70 grand that was classified as deferred revenue from FY 22.
And I would assume that's the plan for FY 23. You're going to defer the additional 70?
Through the chair, that's why I'm pushing Mr. Pizzullo to get this RFP out, so we do have some substantiation to do that for this fiscal year. So the plan right now is yes, depending on the timing.
Thank you.
Any other from council members? Councilwoman Renzulli.
Thank you. Through the chair to Director Pizzullo, does the Planning Commission have anything to do with this RFP, or is it simply the planning department and within the mayor's administration?
It is not prepared directly by the Plan Commission for the RFP. It would be staff working with administration and commission president. That's about as far as it goes with the commission itself. The commission doesn't typically review contracts and be a part of that process. In this particular process, because it's going to VOCAP, you would have two members of the commission at least who would be part of that process. It'd be Director DeZellis and DPW Director.
Thank you. And will we be able to see it?
The RFP,
Yes.
that typically no for the process. It's confidential until it goes public. So no.
And is it going to be sealed bids when it comes back? you know?
Yes, the whole process that BOCAP and Purchase and Finance goes through, we have to follow that process.
And do you have anyone in mind at the moment? Do we have people who are like a sole source specific to Cranston? This is just out of my curiosity that would be able to do this work better and faster
Sole source in Cranston?
for Cranston, like who have worked on this in the past.
No, we don't have any chosen consultant for something like this. Once we put it out to bid, we should get, a few really good consulting firms, I'm hoping, from the region. You're not going to see consultants from far out of the region because of the travel considerations and everything else like that. So I think there's plenty of good consultants in the New England region who would bid on this.
And what percentage of the work to complete the comprehensive plan will be by the consultant versus your department? If you had to give me just a guesstimate.
Overall, from start to finish, the consultant may do 60 to 70% of the work. It's just a grow, and then the staff will have to do the remaining 40, more than likely. Projects like the future land use map will have to be done internally by staff. It's a project like that. It's its own massive undertaking that it's outside of the scope of this type of a contract. It has to get done as part of the update, but we don't have the funding to do a very detailed analysis like that with the consultant. So we'll handle that internally.
And just for a reminder, how long do you think that this will take from start to finish?
Several years.
Several years, like several, I think of several or like a few.
Several, probably 3 to 4 years at the outs, probably.
Do you know?
Could be less, but I'd rather, be realistic. I've been through the process before. Especially when you're dealing with the state approval, it has to get sent to all the major departments from the state, DOT, DEM, historic. It's a lengthy process. And then dealing with their comments at the back end of this. This is it's almost like it's phase 2 of this process is actually getting state approval. So
And do we have any fears that if, I know a housing bill was mentioned that would perhaps put us in a not great place because our plan is not going to be up to date by, I believe, 2024 was maybe the date, correct me if I'm wrong. If we are started on the process, do you know if that exempts us from?
I don't know.
that or no?
I've heard of this bill. Haven't heard that it has much traction, but I'm actually having a call with statewide planning tomorrow. I can get some information on that of what would that mean with our existing plan. We're working on it. Like I'd like to just say that, we keep talking about it like we're going to start, like we've been doing components of the comprehensive plan for a while now. What you approved a couple of weeks ago, the hazard mitigation plan, that is an element of the comprehensive plan. So we have been chipping away at these things. So not in this holistic way for the consultant, but we've been doing pieces of different elements as we can. So I will try to get some clarity on that. I don't know if they will have clarity of that. The bill is, I don't know. I haven't researched it enough.
Any information you can get on that, I think would be
Yeah.
very helpful to
I
all
can,
of us.
I can
I'd
put that
appreciate it.
into the next report for communication, if that pleases the council.
That would be great. Thank you, Director Pizzulo. I appreciate it.
All right. All right.
Any other discussion from council members? Okay. All right. Did I understand you, Director Pizzulo, correctly, that you'd like us to put this on next month for a status update?
I would happily do it all in writing. I don't think that
Nope,
there's.
writing is fine with me too.
Yes,
Yep,
I
Agreed.
have no issue doing a monthly report on the status of getting through this contracting process.
Yep. That's fine.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very
All
much
right,
for the
very good.
update. All right. Next up on the agenda is council business matters carried over. We have the resolution for the adoption of city council rules for the 2023-2024 term, sponsored by myself. This is continued from a special council meeting of 4/13/2023. Do we have any discussion this evening?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion to approve? Councilman Paplaskas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have some amendments I'd like to make. If you'd like me to start, I can go through those now or defer to any other members of the council first.
Go ahead, Councilmember Paplaskas.
Thank you. I will try to be expedient as possible. I know we're probably gonna have a late night Thursday and we're doing good on time now. First of all, I want to thank Solicitor Angel and Madam President for putting these rules together. They are a little bit of a change from what we've had in the past, which is good. I think it's good to streamline these and clean these up. I did have some small amendments that I would like to make. And I'm going to try to go through these. My notes are a little jumbled. On page 2, section E. Yes, section E, page 2. I would like to make a motion to remove that section because I think charter section 3.07 clarifies that in section 2.04.060. So that's my motion to remove E.
Second.
Councilman, what was the, that section that you referenced?
It's charter section 3.07 and section 2.04.060. They set the rules to call emergency meetings.
And that motion was seconded. Any discussion? I will just begin with the discussion by saying that these rules set forth that the charter and our code of ordinances take precedent over these rules. So I don't see there being any conflict or any issue with that provision. Yep. Okay. It's not inconsistent with the charter or the code of ordinance. So, yep. Any discussion, Councilman Riley?
Well, it may be superseded by the charter. It certainly would be redundant, so I think it would be unnecessary to have it in there. I would agree with Councilman Paplaskas.
Any other discussion? Councilman Donegan.
Thank you. Now granted, I haven't had a chance to read the entirety of section 3.07 of the charter that was referenced, but it does state that regular meetings shall be held such as times as the rules of the council shall prescribe. And I mean, the rules here, if I'm understanding right, would just delineate the ability of the presiding officer to call a meeting in addition to those that are prescribed under the charter. So I don't see how they would be run counter to what the charter or city ordinances prescribe. So I'm going to vote against this change.
All right. And clerk, if you can please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
A point of order. What are we voting on? The amendment? No.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
No.
Councilman Donegan,
No.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas, Council President Marino.
No.
Motion carries by a vote of okay, so then motion. Okay, so that means the motion fails by a vote of 5-4.
Madam President, I have another motion.
Go ahead, Councilman Paplaskas.
Thank you. Let's see, page 4 of the rules. Where is it? Page 4, I'd like to add, probably at the end of the first paragraph, and after I make my amendment, I'm going to ask legal for a opinion on if we should amend the first section of the first paragraph under standing committees generally, where it says the president shall appoint. I would like to add at the end of that, the minority leader shall appoint the 2 minority members to the standing committees. So I'll make that as a motion to add that.
Second.
At the end of the first paragraph, under standing committees generally, I'd like to add the minority leader shall appoint the 2 minority members to the standing committees.
Second.
I don't have any issue with any discussion.
I agree with you, Council Paplaskas.
Yep. All right. Okay. There being no further discussion, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas, Council President Marino.
Yes.
Thank you. I have another amendment. Madam President, if it's okay to continue?
Yep.
Under miscellaneous, which is a little more than halfway down the page.
Which page, please?
Oh, I'm sorry, page 5 of 9. Yeah, page 5 of 9. Under oh, I'm looking at my old copy before the amendment. Page 5. Under miscellaneous. It's still page 5. So page 5, under miscellaneous, there is third of the way through that, president. I'd like to make a motion to remove. The president shall have the authority to remove and replace any committee member who fails to be present at a committee meeting and or fails to attend to or actively participate in committee business. I'm going to make a motion to remove that. If I get a second, I'll explain what I'm going to make a motion to
Second.
submit in its place after.
And discussion.
Okay, so if that passes, to remove that, I would like to take rule 4A from the prior rules that were adopted for the 1921 term.
Point of order, you have to vote on the amendment.
I'm under discussion. I was going to let everybody here know what I'm going to replace with it. If it,
For discussion, you can say what your intention is. Sure. Yep.
okay, yeah, so the intent is if this amendment passes, I'm going to make an amendment to insert the council president shall recommend removal of any members of committees, including chair and vice chair to the city council, who shall by a majority vote accept or reject the council president's recommendation. So I would be removing this rule and putting in the other rule if it passes. Sure. So again, my motion would be to remove under miscellaneous, and that if this does pass, the council president shall recommend removal of any members of the committees, including chair and vice chair to the city council, who shall by a majority vote accept or reject the council president's recommendations. And my reasoning for this motion is I've seen this rule before in use, probably about 7-8 years ago, and I think it's a good rule. I think it gives a check and a balance to all of us up here. Now, we never really have to go to the rules, and I'm certainly not pointing this out because of anything Madam President has ever done. You're doing a great job, Madam President, and I appreciate the solicitor's work on this, but I just think this rule is a little more fair and goes with past practice of the council. And it's really saying the same thing. It just has the check and the balance of a majority vote of the council.
Along the lines of discussion, perhaps the better compromise would be the president shall have the authority to remove and replace any committee member subject to majority vote of the council for a member who fails, blah, 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 continues with that sentence. Because that's really what you're seeking to do, is just subject to a majority vote of the council.
Yeah, that's a great compromise and really going a long way when we
Yeah.
could take a shortcut.
Okay. Further discussion, Councilman Donegan.
I agree with the sentiment. What would concern me is, at least in the 3 terms that I've been elected to, it's been a 5-4 council. And I am wondering if perhaps a 2/3 majority for removal of a committee. I mean, that's a pretty big deal. And so I wonder if 2/3, that way, at least kind of the way it's been going of recent history, that would require some sort of bipartisan vote to remove someone. That I think that would be.
So just under discussion or answer, I think when that came up before, it was a 5-4, and the person that would have been moving for the committee actually voted for his own removal and said, if you don't want me, that's fine with me. And that's kind of how it went. And it wasn't a big argument, but I do like the check and the balance being there. I think it's important. Not that anybody here is going to do anything wrong, and I know we're not, but it's nice to have.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yeah, so I would support this with the 2/3, like Councilmember Donegan said as well. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to support the amendment.
I'm going to stick a majority vote of the council. I'm not going to amend my motion. If that fails and somebody wants to make it 2/3 after, that's fine, but I like the majority vote of the council.
All right, any other discussion? Okay. Currently on the floor is your motion, Councilman Paplaskas, just to strike the sentence. So I would ask, based on this discussion, that you perhaps withdraw that motion, and then we make the motion to amend so that it reads, well, as we discussed, the president shall have the authority to remove and replace any committee member subject to a 2/3 vote for the member who fails to be present at committee meetings, and continue with the sentence. Fair enough?
Yeah, I'm not going to remove my motion because I don't believe on the 2/3 vote. So I'd rather just vote
Okay.
on the set to remove the sentence.
To remove the sentence? Okay, all right. All right, I'm not going to be in favor of removing the sentence. Like I said, I'll be in favor of just doing the amendment for the 2/3 vote. Okay. All right, any other discussion?
Yes, so we're not voting on the council president can remove with a 5-4 with the majority. And what
No.
are we voting on?
No, the motion is simply to strike that sentence. And what I'm proposing, but Councilman Paplaskas is not inclined to do, is to withdraw that motion so we can just do a motion to amend the sentence to allow for the intention, which is the 2/3 majority vote to eliminate a council member. In other words, I'm in favor of having a council member removed only with the approval of 2/3 of the council. But the current motion is not that. The current motion is to strike that sentence altogether. Does everyone understand? Okay. All right.
All right,
Yeah.
good.
So can I clarify, Madam President, one more time? My motion is to strike the sentence. If this passes, I'm going to make another motion to put it back with the majority vote. So this is to remove
But
this.
all
from
we
the
need to
motion.
do is just add like 3 words into the sentence. So I'm gonna move the question on the motion pending. We've already discussed it, to strike the sentence. Whatever happens, happens. Clerk, if you can please take the roll. Thanks.
Councilman Ferry,
No,
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
No,
Councilman Donegan,
No.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas,
No,
Council President Marino.
no.
Motion fails by a vote of 5-4.
Yep. Okay.
Motion fails by a vote of 4-5.
And the next, does anyone want to make a motion to amend to reflect what we just discussed? Councilman Donegan?
For the sentence, the president shall have the authority to remove and replace any committee member. After the word member, I would like to make a motion to add the verbiage with a 2/3 majority of the city council.
Second.
Council, any discussion? Councilman Paplaskas?
Thank you. I'd like to amend that amendment from 2/3 to majority vote of the council.
Second.
Well, You can't amend an amendment that's improper procedure. So. Well, I
It's got a second. I defer to Robert's Rules books.
defer to,
There's an amendment on the floor presently. You either vote for the amendment or you don't.
the
And
con-
you propose another amendment. Exactly. That's my understanding. I don't think that's that. You can't amend something that's not been voted on yet. Take them one at a time. Because it gets too confusing.
So currently on the floor is Councilman Donegan's motion to amend, which has been seconded. This is the motion in which we'll be hearing at this time. After that, we'll entertain other motions. Is there any discussion on Councilman Donegan's motion? Okay, all right. I will be voting in favor of Councilman Donegan's motion this evening, and clerk, if you can please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
No.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas.
No.
Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Any other amendments this evening? Councilman Paplaskas.
I'm gonna make a motion to amend what we just amended from 2/3 to a majority vote of the council.
That majority may not move to reconsider the amendment.
Okay. Councilman Paplaskas' motion is out of order as ruled by Council Angel and the Solicitor Verdecchia. Any other council discussion or on amendments to be made this evening?
I have more amendments.
Councilman Paplaskas, what's your next amendment, please?
I'd like to add to page 4 anywhere. Special committees may be established from time to time by a majority vote of the council.
I'm sorry, Councilman Paplaskas, where on page 4? I'm sorry.
Doesn't matter where it's a
Okay.
new,
All right, then what, I'm sorry, if you can say it again?
special committees may be established from time to time by a majority vote of the council.
Second.
Any discussion?
Council President,
Yes, Councilman Donegan.
is there any further rationale behind that or?
It's, I noticed there was an old rule that I thought was nice because it gave the council some flexibility that I don't believe is in the new set of rules, so just kind of nice to have it back.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Thank you. Through Council President, through the Councilmember Paplaskas, so it's a special committee can be established by any committee. Can you repeat that again?
Yeah.
I was writing it down.
Special committees may be established from time to time by a majority vote of the council. And the only time I remember this is before me. I think when Director Favicchio was on the council, they established the flood committee when they were having issues on Fletcher Avenue in my ward. So that's why I want to try to put the rule back in there.
Council Paplaskas, can we not currently, or through the council president, can we not currently already establish committees? Is that, I mean,
We-
by way of ordinance?
We can, Council Vice President Vargas, by ordinance, and that's historically what we have seen. We have numerous committees that are created that way, and so that is the proper way, is to do it by ordinance, which is clearly then by majority council vote. So I don't think that this section is warranted in in the rules.
Thank you.
I would not be in favor of that amendment for that reason, because we already have that power in a proper proceedings to create ordinances for committees. All right, any other discussion?
I'd like to
The
point out,
chair.
if I may, Madam Chair, that if you look at page 5 of the rules as proposed, under miscellaneous, the last sentence specifically says, the president may appoint a special committee of the council subject to these rules for a limited purpose and for limited duration. So it does address that issue. It gives the power to the leadership to do it.
Through the chair to legal counsel. Solicitor Angel, if the president doesn't decide to do a special committee by not having this rule with the 3 members of the council, or from the majority of from not having this rule with the majority of the council, let's say a majority of the council wants to have a special committee and the president does it, then we can't have that committee, correct?
Would seem that way.
Thank you.
Unless it's created by ordinance. Yep. Councilman Donegan.
Thank you, Council President. I understand Councilman Poplaskas's perspective, but I do agree with the Council President that the City Council, we do have the ability as members to effectively create any special committee that we see fit based on a majority vote through the enactment of an ordinance, which would further, delineate the rules of that committee, membership of that committee, meeting schedule, et cetera, to make it an official meeting and committee that would be subject to open meetings as well. So for that reason, I think we have that avenue. It already exists. I'm going to be voting against the amendment.
Councilman Ferry.
I see this as if something were to come up in an emergency and we wanted to have a committee formed to say, study the pool or something else, we wouldn't have to go through the process of introducing it as new business, then it's got to go to ordinance, and it's going to go back to council. Could take 2 months. And if it was an emergency and something we really wanted to look into fast, we could do it in one meeting. So I kind of like the idea that we would have the authority, if we had a majority, to form a committee. Because writing a new law doesn't seem like always the way to go. I mean, we could do it on a limited basis quickly and do it in one meeting. Makes sense.
And to that point, when we're forming special committees, we have to consider the clerk, the burden on the clerk and the capacity too, because then they'll be subject to open meetings and minutes. It's not something that even if we as a body are thinking, well, for example, just saying the Budlong Pool, we just want to have a committee. It's something that we should go through extra steps that we already have in place to make sure that we have the capacity to do it. A special committee, I would see as something as being a short-term emergency type of situation. And it's going to be very, very rare. But Councilman Riley.
Were the previous rules, did they allow for the president to call a special meeting in and of herself? Legal counsel?
I don't know. I didn't, to be honest with you, candidly, the other rules were not very good rules. They were written for a bicameral legislature.
Council, I just asked a specific question, whether or not they were good or bad.
Asking your specific question, Councilman Riley, if you'll allow me to. They
Please
were
do.
written for a bicameral legislature. They didn't address things like this necessarily. I see Councilman Paplauskis's point. The way these are written, it gives the council president and the leadership the right to establish a special committee. With that said, the council can establish a special committee by ordinance. If it's an emergency, then the council will come into session on an emergency basis if it chooses by majority vote of the council or called into an emergency session by the leadership and take control of the situation immediately that way. So there are several avenues presently available to the council to convene for emergency purposes that don't require, waiting a month or months on end for a committee to be created. So, really, it's up to whatever the council wants to do, however they want to handle it.
So to my question, was the council president previously allowed to do this, is all I asked. To solicitor, do you have any knowledge of that? Sia? So, Director Favicchio.
We established a few subcommittees, as Councilman Paplauskis mentioned, that we had the flood committee and school and public building safety committee. And I thought that was done just by the council president suggesting it and a vote of the council, majority vote of the council. I don't know, how we established the authority to do it, but we did do it.
Thank you. Now, that leads me into Councilmember Ferry's point about if we wanted to act quickly and not wait the 3-month process to go forward on something. And Council President Marino's retort to that. I do think the 8 of us down here would consider all the possible considerations that Madam President would also consider. And I think that, we could handle that as the city council. I just wouldn't want to see these rules getting a little too top heavy.
Councilman Riley, thank you for your input, and I don't see these rules as being top heavy. But I appreciate your commentary in that regard. With respect to, though, your comments as to it being 3 months, doesn't take 3 months to set up a committee. With your time on council, I'm sure you're aware, things go to committee the same month, and then they go to the full council for a vote at the end of the month. So, and we can also have emergency meetings called as well. So it shouldn't take 3 months to pass an ordinance, to set up a committee. In the end, this is something that isn't going to come up very often. And as a body, all 9 of us all hold the ability, majority, to form committees in which the city has. So is there any other discussion? Okay. With that being the case, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
No.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplauskis,
Yes.
Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas, Council President Marino.
No.
Motion carries by a vote of 6-3.
Any other amendments?
I have another amendment.
Councilman Paplauskis.
Trying to find the right place to put this in. So I guess we'll put it under meetings docket, public participation and Open Meetings Act, somewhere in there. Either page 2 or 3, maybe create a new paragraph unless Solicitor Angel, if you can think of another section, we can put this in. I'll make my amendment, and I'm happy to make the amendment to put it somewhere else. All resolutions other than celebratory shall go to committee for a hearing first. That's my motion.
Second.
Councilman Paplaskas, if you can please find a specific location according to legal counsel. Thanks.
We'll put it under docket generally. Under section 3. Meetings docket, public participation.
I'm
open
sorry,
meetings.
section 3 or page 3?
Says section 3,
So page 2?
page 2, section
Under-
3. Under meetings docket, public participation and opens meeting act.
Yep.
We'll just add it to the end of dockets generally. All resolutions other than celebratory shall go to a committee for a hearing first, which we do anyways. That's why I'm making the motion.
Yeah,
Any discussion? Councilwoman Jermaine.
thank you, Madam President. I would like to have a clarification. Why would you like to have a resolution go to a committee first?
A lot of resolutions sometimes deal with fiscal notes and things like that are going up through the General Assembly process. And I just feel like having a committee hearing gives another opportunity for the public to come out and also debate or add comment on an item. So, and that's past practice that we've done anyway, so that's why I'm making the suggestion.
You know, a resolution is a will. It's a will, you're not abiding by resolutions. For example, a resolution that celebrate this month. So when you send it to a committee,
No,
you,
no, celebratory ones don't need to go to committee.
okay,
Yeah,
so
that-
you say except celebratory?
Yes, except celebratory. This could, ones I deal with fiscal notes or other issues like, and for that example. Not celebratory. Those always come up.
So your motion is, your amendment is all resolution
Other than,
require
no,
a fix.
but I'll repeat the motion. All resolutions other than celebratory, so those are fine, shall go to a committee for a hearing first.
Actually, I support that. I think that's fair play. Resolution that we introduced was referred to committee. And I know in my previous term I did as well, a couple of them. So I think that's a fair ask on that.
Before I make my comment, Solicitor Attorney Angel.
So that the committee is aware, if you do this, then this council will not have the ability to consider any resolution for immediate consideration, even on an emergency basis, unless it's a celebratory resolution. Just be aware of that.
Through the council president.
Yes. Yep.
Thank you. So on the terms of emergency resolutions, I'm wondering, would you exempt that at all, Council?
Yeah,
Paplaskas?
yeah, I have no problem exempting it. I think the charter probably already does. There's a whole section there for emergency meetings and we had to call one for during COVID. So it already lays it out, a section how to deal with emergencies. That would trump these rules anyways.
Thank you. Through the solicitor, would that be language if amended in terms of exempting the celebrations and the ones that have emergency resolutions? Would that be a fair language amendment if he did that? Okay.
Any other discussion? No. I'd just like to say I'd be in agreement with this because this is how we have proceeded so far, is that all resolutions, if they were not celebratory, if they had any type of fiscal impact, just as recent as the ones that Councilwoman Vargas and I just recently introduced with respect to supporting House bills, we sent those to committee rather than having those heard at the full council meeting. So I would agree with this amendment. Thanks. Okay, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan.
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes,
Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Councilman Paplaskas,
I have no more amendments.
any other amendments this evening? Councilwoman Renzulli.
Thank you. On page 3 of 10 under obligation of council members for docket content. One, I just want to note a spelling error after non-substantive. It should be nature, Nature. But I have just a slight concern with every member of the council has an obligation to read and understand the contents of the docket and its agenda prior to a council meeting. That's obvious. But questions and concerns that need to be addressed to the president or his or her designee on a particular subject during normal business hours of the days leading up to the meeting date. I'm wondering if that could be extended to 8 PM or is it, we work during the day, we can't use normal business hours to have these discussions respective of people's different, employment situations. So I would, be open to a time. I'm not trying to get in anyone's personal time, but 8 PM seems fair. So that would be my motion. The hours of the days leading up to, I would change it from normal business hours to 8 PM.
Any other discussion? And any motion formally?
My formal motion would be to change this from saying particular subject during normal business hours and change that to say until 8 PM on the days leading up to a meeting date.
Second.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Was there a reasoning behind this whole normal business hours? I'm just kind of curious on the rules.
To address it for the clerk, like if it's
It's
the
for the
day
clerk.
before, if
Okay,
it's
that's
after
fair.
hours, you
Perfect,
can't
thank
address
you.
it. Yeah, that was or department heads within the administration, if it's
Okay,
after business
that's fine.
hours, yeah, that's the
That's fair.
only
Yep.
thing, because pretty much all of us have jobs 9 to 5 and we're in that same predicament, so
Yeah.
but I understand, so
Mm.
I think we'll make our best effort to do it if we can before, the close of business day, but of course, if that doesn't happen, that's completely understandable, because we all operate that way, so, yep.
I just wanted to clarify to the president that I had meant to, if I wanted to, or anyone wanted to speak to the president, right? I would hope that, I know Jess answers the phone, but not wanting to call the clerk or director at 8 PM, but specifically to the president so that we could, understand whatever, so we wouldn't be held out of order for not understanding what was on the docket ahead of time.
Any other discussion? Clerk, if you can please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campo Piano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. And Councilwoman Renzulli.
Thank you. On page 6 of 10, this is more of a question. I don't know if it would be for Attorney Angel or for Madam President, but I just wanted clarification. It's the second to last line where it says the member's remarks shall be confined to the motion or business items under consideration, and the member shall avoid personalities. I don't know if we can be more specific about avoid personalities, just so that we avoid the right thing. I don't know if that's specifically saying someone's name. I've seen it other places. I just wanted more specifics on what that means.
I'll defer to Attorney Angel, 'cause that's of a legal nature, which she can explain.
The terms of art avoid personalities means that, avoiding personal attacks or getting personal in any fashion. That's what it means.
Attorneys, that very subjective based on, the president's discretion kind of thing. Yes.
The words mean what they mean. It means that members are asked to confine their remarks to the issue at hand and avoid the personalities of personal attacks and things of that nature. That's what the term of art means generally in rulemaking.
Thank you. And after that, the next sentence, in committee members shall speak on a docket of item before non-committee members and members of the public who shall have the right to speak after all council members. Is that up to the discretion of the committee chair? Because I know oftentimes we allow the public to speak first and then we all speak after that. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Yes, that's still up to the discretion of the chair of the committee. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion on amendments this evening? Okay. Like to thank everybody for their contribution. Yes, to the clerk.
If I may, Madam President, I just had one suggestion on the exhibit for the council dockets because of a couple of items that arose in the past week or so, that perhaps we could add a section that would be items for informational purposes only with no action required. That would be in lieu of the previously, miscellaneous items on the clerk's desk.
Okay, so the suggested change to the clerk, Tracy, if I understand, is for each of the agendas to have a section that just states for informational purposes only.
For all, if you please, my
Yeah.
biggest concern was the council docket.
Okay, on the council docket, sure. Yep, I don't have any issue with that. Yep. All right, any discussion? We'll make a motion.
So moved.
Okay. All right, any discussion on that change? And that would be to the council, full council meeting agenda, an additional section that just says for informational purposes only. Okay, all right, nope, okay, there being none, clerk, please take the roll on that motion.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas, Council President Marino.
Yes. Right, I want to thank everyone for their contribution to these, to the rules, to the amendments. I think we did a good job in making sure all of our interests are represented. And at this time, I'd like to take a motion on approval of the rules as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
No.
Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. All right, next up on the agenda is the introduction of new business. Before we take these or make any motions to potentially take them as a block, as we typically do, I'd like to point Scrivener's error to the last page, ordinance 423-03. Ordinance and amendment of Title III Revenue and Finance, chapters 3.84, 3.88, 3.92, 3.96, and 3.97 of the City of Cranston, 2005, entitled Tax Incentive Programs. That ordinance, that refers to it being sent to Ordinance Committee. That is an error, and it should read that it's being referred to the Finance Committee of May 1. So again, it would be Finance and not Ordinance Committee. Okay. And at this time, I would entertain a motion to take these new business items as a block.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas, Council President Marino.
Yes. Next up, I'd like to take a motion to move all the new business items as a block to their respective committees.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas.
Yes.
Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas, Council President Marino.
Yes. And next, our favorite motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. Yes. Oh, where? Stop. Oh. It's all right. Sorry, everyone, we gotta reopen the meeting. It said, excuse me, 1 second though, before we do that, we're just gonna take a quick recess. It's just for those following along, city solicitor has mentioned the administration is looking for us to have opening of the bids in response to the sale of a property. However, it appears on the agenda as is being referred as new business to finance committee. That's the way it came over to the administration, to the clerk's office. So we are not able to hear opening of bids this evening, because that's not the way it was presented to us. So, no, yeah, we are still adjourned. Thanks.
But